Hey all, so this is footage from my recent Incursions run that I streamed with Spinnaker 3. The idea behind this was Idiosyncratic Incursions, so the idea was to use champions that are a little weirder, a little out there, don't get used as much in Incursions. Now, of course, I had to use that excuse to bring Tigra, but one thing that's really nice for her, I had a hack at this point that gave my heavies the ability to inflict poison, which is extremely nice for Tigra because on her special attacks, she benefits from how many damaging debuffs are on the opponent. She inflicts more ruptures and they do more damage based on that. And so as you saw, that fight was only 20 hits. It was only zone 4, but that's still very quick. It was a lot of fun. So we have Elsa here. Elsa is not the most fun evade counter because you do have to let them evade once and then safely land that medium. However, as long as you can stun, she's really good. And once you have that cold snap up, if you have the Tigra synergy, which was part of why I brought her, then her ammo actually recharges faster, and so you can have 100% uptime on that cold snap, and thus she turns off evade for the entire rest of the fight. She also does pretty incredible damage when you have strategic movement, since every time she uses her evade counter, it triggers yet another instance of Fury and Unblockable, but most champions are good with strategic movement, so that's not really as much. Here we had a fun little one. There's Tyranny on this node, meaning that since both Tigra and Sorcerer Supreme are heroes, neither of them will gain power. So I back her up, and I literally just heavier for the entire rest of the fight. I still have that hack up that's implying poisons, but I'm also getting ruptures based on intercepting her. This was getting into the later rooms, and that was extremely quick. Always fun when that kind of thing happens. So our Section 8 Incursions run did run into some issues. Because we were forcing ourselves to use weirder champions, we eventually ran out of steam. But we went over to Sector 7 to get milestones, and that right there was the team that we ended up going with. So I do run Max Despair, and Masacre can just put up a ton of buffs. So part of why I was showing this was to show him reversing Regen, but you'll see that with how quickly he gets ramped up nowadays, this is not the hardest fight, but notice now he's just going, this Rhino just melts long before he can show any regen. But that stack does show up there, and there were no green numbers. So, kind of showed it. That is one issue with Sector 7, is that some of these fights were just over too quickly. So here we have a Professor X. I actually found myself enjoying Yellowjacket quite a bit. There was tunnel vision on this node, so that's why I'm doing that parry medium light and throwing in some heavies. Notice I do have the poison node still. There I triggered his native falter and not the tunnel vision falter. I got thrown off for a second. But Yellowjacket can really do some solid damage just through mediums and heavies because so much of it comes from those power stings, especially boosted in Incursions because there's so many hacks relating to power stings. That does make it a little bit unrealistic, I'm not going to lie, but it also makes it extremely fun. So if you have a Yellowjacket and you're looking for someone to run through Incursions, give it a shot. I was very pleasantly surprised. This was still an early boss though, just barely stronger than I am. So next up we have a Heimdall boss, fairly simple, but I have a hack on that makes it so that opponents are taunted when they have 3 or more power stings on them, which happens to be how many power stings Yellowjacket inflicts with his special 1. And since it can sometimes be kind of annoying to get Heimdall to throw his specials, figured it'd be a fun matchup. And I was right. Now, he is a little stingy on this first one, but after that, this fight really gets rolling, and he just comes down in short order. I also like the reach on Yellowjacket's heavy. I didn't feel like I really had anything to worry about encountering that special one, and I hadn't practiced this beforehand. He has a fairly fluid move set when you want things to land. See, I definitely could have thrown one there as well. I think the main reason I didn't was because throwing the heavy, because it inflicts that slow, does spend a core charge. So, unless you're playing like a stun immune fight where that's your best way of getting rid of the true strike, I don't think you always want to do that. There, I think I realized the fight was just going to be over long before I went into Meltdown, and so I might as well get the true strike off quickly. So this Ragthor mini was pretty simple. I had Entropic Shield up, which procs bleed on well-timed blocks, and I also had, I forget the name of the other one, but it gives power stings on bleeds, and then when you get to 3, they're taunted. That was the one I was mentioning with Yellowjacket. And so the combination of all of those, yeah, as you can see, it makes it pretty fun for somebody like Ragthor, where you might worry about them turtling. It just went down instantly. So this Ultron boss with the best defense, it's not really that scary, but the fact that he could be gaining a bar of power every time he has that predictable evade didn't really seem like something I wanted to deal with. So I used Yellowjacket, which was actually kind of the theme of our Sector 7 run. I was very pleasantly surprised with how often Yellowjacket was the answer. Because he has that slow on his heavy, he can fully turn off the evade. So I don't think you see a single evade this entire fight. I should not have used the second heavy that just burned core charges unnecessarily, but it's okay, I'll get them back. So here I back off because it expired and go for the heavy again. But because he is gaining plenty of power, he's feeding my core temperature. I don't remember if we actually go into overheat. As much as I was pleasantly surprised by Yellowjacket, I do still feel like his meltdown mechanic is a little undertuned. It feels like it takes too much to get it rolling, and then the payoff, while impressive, is not quite worth all that effort. It just feels a little bit anticlimactic, and you wait so long for it that I'm not sure he really should have a climax that feels appropriate to the wait. Because it is strong. I think the real answer is just when you're using him on offense, I think Meltdown needs to happen faster. Like whether they build charges on both your specials and the opponent's, or just more charges on the opponent's specials, I don't know. Either way, he was extremely effective for this boss. The hacks are helping because I think it's boosted power sting damage, but he's still doing plenty of damage in the first place. And the extra control of that slow debuff on top of it is quite nice. So Hawkeye is not a difficult defender, but this one could heal. So here I actually get to show off a little bit. Masacre against somebody with a larger health pool. One thing that I really like about him since he got his value update is that it's so much easier to charge him. Notice we've already completely shut down the healing from all of those debuffs. And that is pretty much just despair. But Masacre puts so many debuffs on the opponent that even 1 or 2 points would be enough to control a fight like this. You don't need to have it maxed like I do. The fact that he also just does an incredible amount of damage is quite nice. So we ran into this Iceman, and our first thought was, oh, darn, we're going to have to swap somebody out who's Cold Snap immune. And then I remembered that Yellowjacket actually has a really beefy energy resistance. I mean, this still hurts, and without willpower it would be worse. But For a 50,000 PI Iceman to only do that much damage, that's super manageable. Now, he was being kind of stingy. I think that's only like I think the third time in this run that the power stings actually expired rather than them triggering them. But, oh well. This guy's got enough health that I'm pretty sure I'm going to get into Meltdown for this one. So, I don't really mind under what circumstances he throws the specials. Those of you who have played Incursions will be able to tell that I do have Buff Cornucopia on. That obviously makes a lot of things easier. Yellowjacket doesn't have a ton of buffs, so he doesn't really get special synergy with that. But that's okay, it's good for everyone. And he has all these power stings, which do get boosted. Like I said, the payoff for Meltdown is pretty nice. It works through block, it works when you're blocking the opponent. And it adds up while active to usually tens of thousands of damage if you can stay decently aggressive. But like I said, it feels like it takes too long. Because remember that this Iceman has Energize as well, so he was actually throwing more specials than is normal. It would normally take longer to get to Meltdown against this size opponent. So powerful from afar, again a power gain mechanic, and a healing mechanic, right? Yellowjacket doesn't have nearly as many debuffs as Masacre, but now that his power stings do count as debuffs, he does have some. So notice how when that landed, his healing just dropped. And then powerful from afar actually helps him, like we talked about with Energize, because it means the opponent is going to throw more specials, and thus we're going to get into Meltdown faster. Now, it could be an issue if the opponent had a special 3, because we might have trouble getting to Yellowjacket's special 2, which has that Petrify and could actually manage power gain before they go red. But since this drone does not have a special 3, this is just gravy. We're already almost in Meltdown. I think we need... Nope, there it is. So notice that the extra damage applies on the beams as well. Like I said, it really is a nice payoff. It just doesn't feel like it comes quite soon enough. It also doesn't look to me like his power stings scale with prowess, which is kind of a bummer. It'd be nice if they did. So just one more fight here. This is the final boss that we faced in room 10 of Sector 7. Another Ultron, number of nodes on him, but the important one is Encroaching Stun, right? I threw the pre-fight on mostly for attack. I think there may have been tenacity on this one as well. But the important part here is just to time those specials around Encroaching Stun. Now, he's not a great counter for that, other than just relying on the ability accuracy, which I do not like to do. If you rely on that, you will regret it. But I brought him in over the Iceman that I had swapped in as my actual Encroaching Stun counter, on the theory that this was our last room, and if I could do it with Magneto, he'd be faster. Not getting much crit luck here. I must have had any hacks that boost that fall off by now. But he's still doing pretty solid damage, right? This is a 70,000 PI opponent against a rank 2 6-star, and we're doing alright. That degen's pretty sizable. I could have more prowess on if I was landing heavies, but I wanted to get that L2 off before the armor break expired, or before I was forced to throw something else to avoid Encroaching Stun. And so that's why it was comboing so much. See there, I did manage to land that one. We also, of course, had Compounding Harm, which lands the armor breaks on the degens, which is also fun. Red Magneto is definitely more dominant, especially against robots, but I do really enjoy playing White Magneto. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed these highlights of our Incursions run. I'm going to link Spinnaker's channel as well as the link to the live stream itself in the description, and we hope to do this again in the future. Catch y'all then.